I'm really sad, guys. I have just been talking to myself for 30 minutes recording and nothing recorded. I've basically already recorded this episode. I'm gonna do it again. I'm so sad. I can't believe it. I put so much into the last episode and it didn't record. Right, we're gonna jump straight back into the episode, guys. Lucien has moved in next door to our MC and he is prattling on about it being a coincidence. Or is it something more? Is it fate, he says. We see her heading out and she's tired and he asks where she's going and she says, I'm off to see Victor, but I'm also really, really worried. And Lucien says, I think it's going to be absolutely fine because I've just said it's going to be fine. We get a bit of foreshadowing where MC Chan says that she feels like these days were in a bit of a slumber. They were innocent, fragile days. This is foreshadowing. The anime is starting to do this really quite clever. And then we go into our opening. The title of today's episode is A Taste of Reminiscence. I need to get it straight out, guys. This is my favourite episode, hands down so far. I love it on so many levels. And it's not just because I love Victor to pieces. There's so many nice moments in this anime and this episode does a fantastic job of bringing them all together. I am gutted that you didn't get to hear what I've already said, but I'm going to repeat myself because one must. We're going to do it. Okay, guys, we enter into a bit of a moment where we see MC is somewhere dark and we see a man holding a gun aiming towards her. As he pulls the trigger, she wakes up on the train and she's like, was it a dream? And we can see that she's very shocked because the guy next to her has sat up and he's kind of given her a weird look and gone back to what he's doing. And she's really worried. She's like, last time I had something happen like this, it came true in real life. Is this going to happen again? So she's very, very on edge. Outside LFG, she starts to wonder, is there other people out here right now as I'm, crossing me right this very moment who have got powers? And we get a text from Kiro. And guys, if you aren't playing the game, you probably don't know how happy I am to see a text come through. But a big mechanic in the game is texting. If you ever played Mystic Messenger, you know that all of your conversations, all of the game took place through text. It took place in the actual app itself. So you get, you get a phone interface, you tap it and you get text. That is also the case with Mr. Love, but not as heavy as Mystic Messenger. So you will unlock texts at certain points in the game. If you get certain karma cards, you unlock them. If you unlock certain intimacies, you unlock them. You'll get phone calls at certain points in the game as well. So me seeing a text come through is nice. It's a little nod towards the game mechanics themselves. So we enter into perhaps the worst meeting on the planet. Anyone ever had a meeting before? I'm pretty sure you can say it didn't go this badly. We see that Victor is scanning over her plan and he says that your show is so niche, it only appeals to a select few people. I understand that having a web series is a really good idea, okay? We get a little bit of glimmer of hope. But then he says, I don't get what's happening after all this. And he calls her idiot, backer, dummy over and over again. And we can see her just kind of biding her time, ignoring it, getting more and more wound up by him. In the game, I think I have mentioned a few times, he's an a-hole. I love him, but he is an a-hole. He will call you dummy repeatedly. To you, you will get called childish. You will be called dummy over and over again. It got to the point where another character, maybe it was Lucien, he called me like a little fool, and I was like, Lucien, you can't steal Victor's lines. No, how rude. So it got to the point when I'm just so used to hearing Victor call me these things. I'm like, it's back. Even in the anime, I can't escape it. It's there. It's just a trauma, guys. Trauma from being called an idiot. Okay. And he reminds her of the promise. You said that you'd make me eat my words. You said that you'd be standing on top of the entertainment business in the next 5 years. And she doesn't refute him. She just says, I understand that, and next time I will make sure that the report is better. She starts to think to herself as Victor is berating her more. What if Victor is connected to the Black Swan? Is this all just a ploy? Is he just trying to hinder me from making my program? And then maybe she didn't think about it. I don't know if she was quite in her head at this point. She flat out just goes, sir, might you be trying to prevent me from putting my show on by pretending to be an arrogant, obnoxious person? Just silence around this room, guys. Could you imagine saying that to your manager? And keeping your job as well, because still keeping your job at the end of it. Like I said, this was perhaps the worst meeting on the planet. She has, a seal of the worst meeting ever. And Victor comes out and says, nobody is going to fund a project with no future. And he says, so if you want to keep making an idiotic show for idiots, made by idiots, go elsewhere. and it ends. So like I said, this is the worst meeting ever, which is great. Back at the office, Kiki, now also kicking the MC, why did you have to go and make your impressions on him even worse? And she's just kind of stood there going, I know. To be fair, I'm shocked. It's like, why would you say that out loud? So Anna's like, we've got to go back to the drawing board and think of some ideas for the next episode. And then she tells them that I've got an idea for an episode and Kiro will be appearing. And both of them are shocked. So now we go into the not so worst ever meeting ever. So this meeting is a bit better. This meeting is where the guys, you see quite a few members of the Miracle Finder show appear around a desk. You can get cards for all these guys. They're all cards you can gain in game. We find out that Kiki's got an idea. Why don't we go to Souvenir, the restaurant, and we can review their food? Because reviewing food right now is amazing. And she says this is going to be even more entertaining because somehow Souvenir has got amazingly poor reviews, really bad reviews, like stupidly poor. We find out that they've got a score of 4.9 out of 5, which isn't bad, guys. I will eat anywhere with a 4, even if I'm desperate, 3.5 stars I'll go to. And we find out that the food, the flavour is getting full on 5 stars. No one can fault the food, but everything else is getting a big old fat 0. It's so bad, but the food is so good and everyone is raving about this pudding. Everyone's like, we should go there to make it our next episode. And a quick little side note, I come from the UK. There is a place in London which revels in having a very bad reputation. In the Chinatown, I'm not going to mention their names because I don't want to get sued by any Chinese company right now. And they basically are known for being the rudest customer service on the planet. And people will say that they go there just to be treated badly. And you might have heard this in Japan. There's a restaurant where, some maid tsunderes will berate you and they throw your food at you kind of thing. So this is a thing. There are restaurants out there who revel and actually survive in having a very bad reputation. So she texts Kira about her ideas and she basically sets up a meeting with his manager. And she says, I'm not sure what I should bring. I need to bring something to the proposal. What would be okay to bring along with me? And Kira says no sweets because my manager won't allow it. However, he says, if you hand make something, I'm sure he may allow me to have it. So she sets her heart on making Kira a pudding. Now, as she's walking along to the meeting with Kira and his manager, Gavin stops and says, hey, I've just finished doing some work and I'm heading in that direction. Let me give you a lift over to the studio. And MC Chan gets Vietnam style flashback. She's like, oh, I almost died last time. And she declines. And she's like, nope, not happening. I'm going to walk. I'll be fine. And Gavin's like, what happens if someone bad appears? What happens if an Evolver appears and you're in danger? And she's like, it's fine because there's an Evolver standing in front of me. And Gavin says, even though I'm an Evolver, I would never hurt you. We're still getting these misunderstandings, and to be fair, this episode doesn't end in Gavin's favour at all. So it doesn't paint Gavin in any better light whatsoever. Although, unless you're like me, who just doesn't trust the other person, I don't trust you. It's fine, I have good reasons. Enter into the building and she crashes into Victor and we get this amazing click and everything freezes. And we see that the pudding, which she had made, has stopped mid-air. So he's managed to freeze time that it doesn't hit the floor, even though it still wrecks her pudding. She hits the floor. I'm pretty sure she lands, but Victor has managed to make everything stand still. So he saves her pudding. She's sad and she's like, oh no, it fell apart. And Victor's like, oh, did you make that? And then he's like very angry. You were too focused on making a pudding instead of your own plan. And she says, no, this is actually for a negotiation, but now it's ruined. And Victor's like, are you trying to say it's my fault? And we get this moment where she's like, no, I would never say that to the CEO. I know, it's fine. We've already called him an obnoxious, abusive person. It's fine, guys. It's fine. Arrogant person, sorry. So she's like, I would never say that. And Victor's like, you should ask for your the pudding to be chilled before they eat it. MC's so confused. She gets a nice confused moment. This is the first moment we get where Victor starts to pull the rug under our feet. This is pretty much a Victor episode, but Kiro is also a very important player in this. 2-star players of this episode are Kiro and Victor. We'll talk more later on that, but for now, these are our boys. But bear in mind, time is frozen, so nobody should be able to move. But Kiro comes around the corner and is like, hey, Miss Chips. Victor himself is like, an Evolver? Kind of really shocked because nobody should be moving. Victor then unfreezes time, so people start moving around, so obviously it takes Kiro a bit longer to get to her. And she says, is Kiro an Evolver? And he says, he may not be aware of it just yet. This is important, guys. You remember what we do? We take out a pin, we sticky note this and put it to the top of the page. We'll come back to it later. Very important. He tells her, I want your report, and then he walks off. And we get the famous potato chip princess. So she says to him, I brought you a pudding, but you need to chill it first before you eat it. And Kiro's like, that's okay. I'll put it in the fridge in the green room and I'll chill it. So we see that she has taken heed to what Victor has said. So we enter and we're in a green room with the manager. I have put up the picture because he is a card you can unlock in the game as well. Kiro, we find out, is a regular at Souvenir. And he says, there's no way you're going to be able to get their permission at all. Like, no matter how much you persevere, you just won't be able to get their permission. And MC is starting to get really worked up. She's like, no, there's no tomorrow. I have to do this. So the manager's like, if you can get Souvenir's permission, I will let Kiro appear in your show, which is very important. So she takes a trip to Souvenir, which is kind of like in a back alley, and no one answers. We get a little flash now. This is important, guys. Did you catch this? I hope you did. Victor is making a pudding. And look at his surroundings. Look at his surroundings. He's not at home, guys. Take it from someone who knows what Victor's house looks like. He's not at home. And this is the moment, guys. So this, if you're eagle-eyed, this is your first reveal, and this, you might have been able to join up the dots right here, right now. If you didn't miss it, let's break it down. First of all, we see Kiro sitting down to a pudding, and he says, it's not broken at all, it's perfect. And he eats it, and he's like, this is amazing. And we see it's, nice and neat. Then we switch to Victor eating a pudding, and it's burnt, and we recognise this pudding. It's the same pudding we saw in the scene where it was falling down to the ground. And he's like, oh, it's disgusting. Yes, if you have worked it out, Victor cooked a pudding. He told MC to put the pudding in the fridge because he was in the same building having an investment meeting, remember? And he's been able to quickly get a pudding, and he's put it in the fridge. He can freeze power, so maybe he did that. And he's given Kiro one of his puddings, and he's got MC Chan's pudding. MC Chan, sadly, isn't the best cook in the world, so I feel bad for Victor. It's not the best swap in the world. This is one of those moments where it's like, guys, I know Victor is abrupt. I know he's a handful, but at heart, he is a really loving person. He is amazing. He did not have to do this. So firstly, but bear in mind, she told him it was for a negotiation. Again, this is showing her putting work first. As well, she also said it's kind of your fault, kind of trying not to blame him, but at the same time inferring that it's Victor's fault that it's broken. Victor has either A, he feels bad. B, he basically wants this negotiation to go well because obviously it's business. So we see that he's gone above and beyond to ensure that things have gone right. And we've hit the halfway point. And we now come to try number 4. And we can see again, there's no one there. No one's answering. And we see the waiter appear from behind her. This is Souvenir's waiter. I have put up a picture of the karma card you can pull in the game. He is called Miles, I believe. And she has allowed him. Oh, idiot, MC Chan, idiot. You are a dummy. She asks where the owner is, and he says the owner's out he's a chef as well as the owner, so he's out back in the kitchen. And then she says, can I do a story on this place? And the waiter says the owner won't like that. And she asks again, is there anything I can do to change his mind? He goes away and then comes back and says you've been asked to leave. He won't accept you as a customer. And this is where our boy comes in. So Kiro does save the episode as well. Kiro is very important. He is a regular. He knows Mills. So they're a little bit pally-pally. They're very familiar with one another. And then he goes, have you ordered anything? And MC's quiet kind of thing. And Kiro, being very smart cookie, he's like, did you just come in here and ask to do a story, but not even order food? And he's like, this is a restaurant, you should be eating. And MC just clicks, it makes sense. She's like, I'm so sorry, I was so selfish, I was only thinking about what it was I wanted. And she's like, I can understand why the owner is so angry at me. So we find out that this place essentially has bad rep because people come in and just want to do stories without even eating the food. And Kiro himself is like, I've seen so many people make that mistake. Kiro asks Mills, please let her eat and try some of this food. And he says, fine, okay, I'll do it. I'll take the manager's bad attitude. Oh, we know, my boy. So we find out that the reputation is also bad because if the owner doesn't like you, if there's a point when the owner just doesn't like something you say, or you're mid-food eating and he takes a dislike to you, you get kicked out mid-meal, guys. You just, bye-bye, shoo. If you ever complained about food, you are that person that would get kicked out of Souvenir. And yes, I am so happy to be talking about Souvenir. I have spent many, many hours in Souvenir in-game because it's very important in Victor's route, okay? To be fair, it does appear in Kiro's route a few bits too. We get to my favourite part. I am a food lover. I don't like Food Wars, the anime, but I like a lot of food animes out there. And if I have a chance, maybe at some point I'll review the food animes. I love food. I love Mike Chen. I love anybody who talks food. And this is what we're here. We're going to start with the food. So we enter, they order a consomme, which is a nice clear dish. It's a soup. We see a meat dish also there. The meat is probably rare, and we see a salmon dish, and she's over the moon. The food is absolutely amazing, and we get to the pudding. This is the moment. Kiro says, did you have somebody help you make the pudding that you gave me? And she's like, no, I didn't. And Kiro's like, oh boy, you are in for such a surprise when you try this. And she eats it. And Kiro's like, it's amazing, right? But your pudding was so much better, guys. Put a little pin in that. Kiro has given you another point. If you didn't work it out from the initial first clue, there's your second clue. MC is like, this is amazing. She starts to cry. And we get this nice kind of soft lighting as she's crying. We get a nice little soft, quiet moment now. And Kira's like, I've never seen someone cry because their food was so good. And MC's like, probably the most delicious pudding I've ever eaten. And this is it. If you didn't get it from above now, here you are, guys. Victor owns Souvenir. He is the chef of Souvenir, guys. Victor is a cook. Victor likes to cook. The reason Victor told her to put that pudding in the fridge is because he's a cook. And this is our review. I've got so many love hearts. I love him, guys. I just love him. It's fine. It's okay. He's my boy. It's fine. Okay, so the MC now gives us some more of her background. And this is what I've been trying to tell you guys. The MC isn't just a 2D character. She's got a very rough background. MC says she has no memories of what she had before she was 5. And she says it's because I was involved in the kidnapping. I was in shock, so I can't remember anything. But all I can remember is this pudding. And that I tried to make it so many times, but I could never recreate it. And yes, the MC has selective amnesia because she's been through trauma. And as somebody who also has selective amnesia on a certain time in my life, I can tell you that it's a pretty real thing. Your brain, if you are so stressed, will protect itself. It essentially tries to protect you and yourself. And it cuts off your ability to recall those memories. MC has that. So it's not as bad as amnesia, if you've ever played amnesia, where you just don't remember anything. It's selective. She just can't remember certain things. And we see that Victor can hear all of this. And he's got this quite solemn, quite sad look in his face. Oh, it's a sad look. I love it. And the waiter asks, was everything okay? And MC was overjoyed. She's like, please let me do the story on this restaurant. I will make it so good, please, and I beg you. And then she says, food that can move people this deeply is no easy feat. And through my show, I want to convey that to everybody. That I want to convey that feeling to everybody out there. Please, I beg you. And Victor does hear everything. So he's nearby. I had to say, Victor, you've got very good hearing. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're sat at like the furthest away table from where Victor is. But at the same time, I guess he's sharp on the money. He's also sharp on hearing, perhaps. We enter on her in Loveland Park. And she gets a text from our friend Kiro, and he's just apologising for not really being any help. And she shrugs it off. She's like, okay, it's fine. It's cool. And then she says, I should get back to the office. And we get another text come through. And it says, regarding your request for an interview, please feel free to come and conduct an interview. And it's Souvenir. I got a little love heart because I know who wrote that text. And she runs back to thank them. And she sees Victor leaving the building. The credits start to play. And MC, it's at first like, are you a regular here? No, you wouldn't be a regular here. It's you, isn't it? It's you. And MC just clicks. It all just clicks in line. So it takes her a lot longer than us because we're smart guys, aren't we? We're smart. We knew who it was and we knew who it was. She's not so smart, has just figured it out. So we get to a scene inside where she's sitting opposite Victor and he's like, just so we're clear, you're interviewing Mr. Mills, the waiter. And she asks him why he's cooking, and Victor's like, I've always liked to cook, and I enjoy being able to work on things and create things and bring senses all together. And he also says that he's looking for someone. So he says, this cooking may help me lead me to them, but he says it may not, but it's just a lead. So she says the food was made for a certain person, which gives her, I guess at this point, MC's she's seen a new side to Victor completely. It's a very soft side that we know that he's thinking about someone. And we're also seeing a side that he likes cooking. This is a very tender side to someone. I've always said that good cooking takes soul. It takes heart. Anybody can be a cook, but it takes somebody with passion and a heart to make good food. And Victor's food has moved her to tears. So we can say that Victor puts himself in the food he creates. He's arrogant. Yes, he's got pride, abundant pride. But his food is a part of him. He makes his food to the highest quality. His food's getting 5 stars. His attitude sucks. So she asks him, have you ever thought about using your powers to give you an advantage? And in a very fictive response, we get, that's way too much trouble. I'll do it all myself. And he says the deadline is tomorrow. So we get one of 2 closing scenes. At any point, the anime could have ended on any of these 3 scenes. We get a celebration that Miracle Finder has had its spending and funding resumed. So it seems that Victor's had a little change of heart. Or that MC has basically proven herself to Victor. And Kiro says, I cannot wait to make an appearance on your show. That's coming up, guys. So this is it. So we are now making a step forward. We are now on the starting line. And as MC says, this is where the fight starts. And then we get the close. This is it. So we've already had our credits. The credits were ages ago. We get MC and Lucien on a rooftop. She's like, I never thought I'd be celebrating this with you. And Lucien's like, I knew from the start. I told you it would be fine and it would all work out. And we see fireworks. And he says, this is my congratulations to you. I just happened to know there was a fireworks display tonight. And I figured that you'd want to see them. Lucien seems, as he's watching them, we see him space out a bit. We see one of the fireworks explode colourless to him. And he then says, this is all part of my research. I'm very interested in you, you see. Like a lab animal. Put a little smiley face by that. I'm interested in what path you're now going to take. And MC says, I'm going to keep making good shows. And then the wind blows. And then we see Gavin. And then it's basically MC Chan's vision. We see Gavin arrive holding a gun. And I've put right here, WTF, Gavin, you've ruined the mood. Duh. Lucien, who, as I worked out, hasn't shown us this yet, but he puts up a barrier, guys. Lucien is an evolver. To be fair, it's probably pretty obvious by this point. It's pretty obvious. Not to be Lockhart obvious, but, pretty obvious. Lucien's like, get behind me. And Gavin is very worked up, and we hear a gunshot. And that's where the episode ends. So, Gavin, my boy, you've painted yourself in a very bad light. So I guess our newbies are like, WTF? What's going on? Is Gavin bad? Is Lucien bad? What the hell? Blah, blah, blah. I know what's going on, but it's great. We're not going to spoil it. We're now going to move on. I've got a lot more to talk about, so we're not going to spend too much time there. We're going to go to, yes, I've seen the complaints. I've seen that episode 2 was supposed to have a certain character in it. That certain character is Minor. Minor will be in the next episode, guys. He's coming. I don't get the fuss about Minor. Minor just annoys me. Minor is basically Gavin's friend. You'll see him a lot with Gavin's route. We'll see him next episode. I'm not going to spend too much time on him just yet, but here's the card for him. Anyway, you can pull him in the game. You also get routes where he talks to you in game. He also texts you a few times, and he also talks to you on your Facebook wall. So there's that. Okay, so the next episode is called The Key in Darkness. And we get the end card, which I'm now going to talk about. So, guys, my mum is a florist, and I'm going to talk to you guys about flowers, colour, and meaning, and what these bouquets mean. We'll start with my boy, who's holding red roses. Some of you guys are lucky to have had red roses given to you at some point. It means I love you. Red roses are plain, simple. They are a declaration of love. Red roses are very key to Victor's route, and I might put a picture up of one of them, maybe, but they are super key. So if you're playing Victor's route, red roses all the way. What you might find as well, people sometimes put a fake red rose in the middle of a bouquet like this. The idea is when all the red roses vanish, that's when my love will end. But if you've got a fake red rose in the middle, your love is never going to end. So tip for you guys out there if you want to impress somebody. Kiro is okay. So hands down, last time when I last tried to record this, I dubbed Kiro the best bouquet, and here is why. Kiro's bouquet matches Kiro. It's blonde. It's got some beautiful colours. They're quite innocent, quite childlike character colours. Did you know that sunflowers come in two sizes essentially? The tall ones are haughtiness, which isn't the type that Kiro is holding. Kiro is holding the small ones, and that means adoration. If you give somebody a small sunflower, it means you adore them. Yes, MC adores the idol who Kiro is, but it's a two-way street, and you'll find out as you play his route that you're not the only one who adores Kiro, and he also is a two-way street. It works both ways. He also has daisies, and daisies are a sign of innocence and hope, and what more could you say? Kiro is that young innocent idol, and he's got a lot of hope for the future. The next two bouquets I've only got half figured out because I couldn't quite work out the flowers from the images. Lucian, I think, is holding lilies, so the white one's definitely lilies. Lilies means sweetness, so it's a tenderness. They're a very sweet flower to give, but they are used at funerals. Purple, again, with the character I said last week, purple surrounding Lucian. Purple for mystery. You can't trust purple because they are a mystery. You don't have the full picture. So I think purple is a great colour to give to Lucian because, especially after how the episode just ended, a few people might have a few question marks by his name. And last but not least is Gavin. I've put down that he could be holding one of 3 different flowers. If it's wisteria, it could be a sign of youth. I don't think it's wisteria, okay? Just because wisteria hangs upside down, but you can get white wisteria. The Wisteria Maiden is about young love kind of thing. It's a Japanese traditional play where wisteria heavily features. If this man is holding jasmine, which I think is probably probably more likely, it means sweet love. So it's a very sweetness. White as well is very innocent. White is always an innocent, pure, very pure colour. It's why you wear it at weddings. It's pure. I did say as well that he could be holding lavender, but lavender means he distrusts someone, and I don't think he distrusts the MC, so I don't think it's lavender. I mean, it could be. I don't think so. It's got long stalks, so whatever it is, maybe it is wisteria because you can hold it upside down. That's what I think it is. So my overall thoughts on the episode. I've been talking about this anime episode for 1 hour now, guys. Whew, and I've still got to edit it. It's going to be a long night. This is my favourite episode so far. We've had some very touching moments. We've gone and delved into some really painful moments for the MC. What I've been trying to tell you guys as you watch this is give it a chance because the story is special. The story isn't just a boy meets girl or a girl is surrounded by a harem of boys. This girl here, she has got her problems. There's a lot going on. She's got a very painful past, as we discover in this episode. And there's a lot more to her we just haven't got to yet. And this story, the game has made me cry. This is a very emotional game for an otome game. It's painful, it's twisty, it's turny. There's a lot of surprise moments in it. So hopefully by this point you guys have decided to stick with me. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm working on making them better. This will be the longest anime I review and stick with online. It's 36 episodes. And yeah, I hope you guys have just worked out that definitely stick with this one. And I promise you, this anime is definitely shaping up a million times better than many of the otome kind of game makes into anime I've seen before. I love this episode. I enjoyed it. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week when we get to see things start to get a bit bumpy. Hopefully you guys join me next week. And until then, I hope you have a great weekend. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.